It will start in 10 seconds, okay?
Okay. Hi guys, how are you? It is superb to have you guys back again for the third session of the ATL drone module of the ATL drone workshop, and I'm very excited to see a lot of you here. Um, it's already around 280 300 people, and I'm pretty sure by the time we get into the meat of this content, the attendance is going to go up very significantly. Awesome. So, welcome again to the third session our drone uh, of our drone workshop, online drone workshop. And why don't we take off from where we left off the last time? Today I will be taking the workshop. I'm going to quickly test whether you guys are able to see this in the full screen. I think you guys do. Perfect. Um, awesome. So I believe the last time we had discussed, we left off with we broadly discussed what is stability, what is other. So I wanted to kind of quickly brush off the concepts from the last time. Um, the broad concept of what is a stable system, what is an unstable system, and what's a neutrally stable system. Now, what we have a stable system is any system that, when disturbed from its equilibrium position, comes back to where it started from. Like if you have this ball in a bowl, and if you shake it, the ball will oscillate for a while before coming back to its stable position. On the unstable systems, we have a ball at the top of a peak, which, if disturbed from that position, will roll away and not come back to the original position. If disturbed from its equilibrium position, it does not return back to its original state. And finally, we have the neutrally stable systems, systems that when moved from its position of equilibrium, do not uh, do not come back to its original state, but attain a new equilibrium. Which also brings me to the interesting question we had earlier. Is man a stable system or an unstable system? This is a question we had floated the last time. Um, as a man who's standing on his 2 feet, or a girl who's standing on her 2 feet, is he or she a stable system? If disturbed from their equilibrium position, will they come back to the same equilibrium, or will they fall off? Now, what we also so before I jump into that, I was wondering if we could quickly check out the concepts in the process of stabilizing any of these systems, right? If you check out a simple drone, let me quickly pick one up and show you guys. Just give me just 10 seconds. I'll quickly get a drone. Awesome. So what you see in my hand is a drone. I hope you guys are able to see me. Yes. Right. So assume this is a drone. Well, it still misses out on a few motors, batteries, and everything else. This is just a frame. Um, if you actually, if this is a drone that's flying stably in the air, and if you happen to disturb this a little bit, Drones are naturally neutrally stable systems. What it means is they will get disturbed and they will continue on the path. Sorry. So they will get disturbed and they will continue to go on the path and find its new system, new equilibrium, and then crash off onto the ground. Unfortunately, that is not what we want in our drones. So what we want is a drone that's flying up stably. Whenever it is disturbed from its position of equilibrium, it should be stabilized by external factors by internal factors to bring back to its original steady state. How do we do that? We do that through sensors. Now, these sensors that we are looking at, these are a wide variety of sensors that drones employ in their attempt to just sense their surrounding as well as stabilize the entire system. Uh, so essentially, a sensor is any device that detects and responds to input from the environment around it. It could be so as you see on the screen, it could be light, heat, moisture, pressure, or it could be any other things like angles, or it could be magnetic field, or anything else. What it essentially does is all of these physical phenomena, be it the light, heat, the magnetic field, all of these are physical phenomena. These sensors convert this physical phenomenon into electronic data, and we use this data to go ahead and stabilize the drone. Now, what sort of drones do you what sort of drones do you what sort of sensors do you commonly find in a drone for stabilizing it? The first one that you have is the accelerometer. Now, if this was a face-to-face class, my first question to you would be, what is a typical device where you see an accelerometer regularly? And I'm actually going to just give you 15 seconds to type out your response to this. Just let us know what sort of devices do you see an accelerometer regularly in? All right. So an accelerometer is a sensor that you regularly find in your cell phones. What does it do? Let me give you a very simple example. When I hold my phone like this, the conversations are serially down here. When I hold my phone like this, the whole thing changes up. The whole orientation changes like this. That is possible because of the accelerometer. And in the accelerometer, you basically are able to detect the direction of the gravitational force. So when I hold like this, the direction of the gravitational force is down here, is along this axis. But when I hold it horizontal, the direction of gravitational force is not in this direction, but it's in this direction. What this sensor does is it essentially allows the drone to understand which is the direction it should be, so that it is horizontal. So the drone will this way understand whether this is the direction in which the gravity is there, or is it this direction or this direction, or is it in some oblique direction, which if the drone is tilted like this, it will be an oblique direction like this. And that is essentially what the drone is able to detect. Why is it important? It's a simple reason. If the drone is in this direction, because of the propeller, it will continue to move in this direction. But if you want to stabilize it, it needs to be perfectly horizontal, almost perfectly horizontal. And for that, the drone needs to make adjustments so that it can bring it horizontal. The way this does it is, it does it by measuring something called as proper acceleration. In fact, I would quickly request my teammates to share the video that talks about the accelerometer and the proper acceleration in the link, so that you guys can check it out right after our session is done. Proper acceleration essentially is the acceleration of a body as measured by an object that's free falling. Let me give you a simple example. Let's say I have this drone and I have this another drone. Now, let's say this drone has both of these have accelerometers. Now, I let this drone go in free fall like this. Now, when I let this drone go, and if I assume I have a camera on this, or a person sitting on this drone that's observing at this drone, you would essentially see that this drone would see that this drone is starting to accelerate upward in that direction. Essentially, that is the value that an accelerometer measures through the proper acceleration. Now, what this accelerometer very clearly does is, when the drone is, so for example, when the drone is stable up here like this, in the falling frame of reference, this is going up at G. But let's say if the drone is like this, the proper acceleration has three different components along the three different axes. So some of you 9th and 10th standard students who might be watching this would understand that there are, X axis, Y axis, and Z axis, and you're measuring the proper acceleration along these three axes, on the basis of which you will be able to find out which is the angle that the proper acceleration is, which also means you can detect कि जो drone है, it is tilted in which direction. It is whether it's like this or like this or like this or like this, whichever way it is, your accelerometer is going to measure that and find that out. All right, and that is what the accelerometer does. The way this works is, let me see if I can pick up an IC and show you. Just give me 1 second. All right. I hope you guys can see me. Yes. So if you can see this is the controller board, the CPU or the brain of the drone. Now, somewhere down here, you have the accelerometer. It's a very small IC, integrated circuit, that is able to do these measurements. What essentially happens is, you guys might be familiar with a mass and a spring. When you pull it in one direction, it just comes back and snaps back. So essentially, in the MEMS accelerometer, whenever that IC experiences any sort of acceleration, it gets pulled in one direction. Now there is a concept called capacitance, which you guys may not be familiar with right now, but that's okay. When you have when the accelerometer experiences acceleration in certain direction, as you can see on the screen, the distance of the sensor of the metal in between from the two different pieces of metals here, that changes, because of which there is a concept called as capacitance. This is a concept that you will be learning in, let's say, 11th or 12th standard. Now when it changes the capacitance, That is something that the accelerometer measures. And based on the difference in that capacitance, the accelerometer is able to measure what is the applied acceleration on that specific IC. And that is how you are able to, detect what's the angle of this drone. That is how you are able to detect whether your phone is held like this or whether your phone is held like this. It helps you to, well, I don't think this one has it. Let's say Twitter. Yeah. So this is the mechanism with which you can detect whether your phone is held like this or held like this, and helps you use your phones or any of your devices much better. Now coming to the next one. So one of the four sensors is the accelerometer. Then you have the gyro sensor. Now a gyro sensor is something that helps you understand the angular rate. And it's an angular rate sensor. It's not just a angular rate sensor. It measures the rate of rotation around different axes. Let me give you a very simple example. Let me see if I can open up a video that actually talks of toilet flush, but you will recognize how useful it is in case of a drone. So give me just a moment. All right. This is a very interesting video. It's a slightly longer 8-minute video. So while I'll give you the premise of what the video is about. The premise is this is Destin, and he was very curious that when you flush your toilet, does the water swirl in clockwise direction or does it go in anti-clockwise direction? Now there's a whole bit of stuff that he talks about in the beginning. So I'll just to save some time, I'm going to talk about it. In this experiment, what he does is he does a very controlled experiment wherein he puts up a pool, a really large pool, and opens up the bottom, like at the center, and he tries to see which direction the water swirls in. So I'm going to kind of fast forward all of this. Just to let you know, he is somewhere in the US in the northern hemisphere, and that's where he checks out a whole bunch of these things. Just search the truth about toilet swirl, northern hemisphere or southern hemisphere, and that will give you an idea of. It's a pretty fun video to check it out. So this is the sort of pool that he's created, and that's what he tries out. Right now, what he's done here is you can see that he has a pool in between with a hole in between, and he just lets out the water from that. All right, and let's see what happens after that.
Apurva sir, I believe the video is not being seen to the audience.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Okay, let me quickly fix that. Okay, I think you guys can see it now.
Yes.
All right, I'll quickly show you what I'm talking about. Right, this is the whole apparatus he builds. He filled up the pool with water, had a hole in the center, and after which he, after which he sort of let the water go. Right? And this is the point where he. All right. And just to kind of move further. All right. This again a little longer video, so I'll let you guys check it out a little later at your free time. But what's happening here is something that's explained a little later here, right? The Earth that's.
Sir, the audio is also not playing.
All right. So what he's telling you is, imagine this pool a little magnified on the northern side, on the northern hemisphere, that's rotating. So you have the outside which goes a slightly higher pace, the inside which goes at a slightly lower pace, because of which you have something that goes. So because of which you see something called as the anti-clockwise motion of the water particles. Why is this important? This is because this is caused because of something called as the just a minute. Let me try to share my screen quickly. So if you do the same experiment in the southern hemisphere, you would see that the pool would actually swirl clockwise. This happens because of something called as the Coriolis force. Let me change the screen that I'm sharing once again. Okay. Yeah. Yes. So basically, what you see is whenever any body is rotating. In this case, as we saw, the Earth is rotating. Every object that is on it, or if you are in the frame of reference of that rotating object, you see that the bodies around you experience something called as the Coriolis force. And that Coriolis force depends on what rate your body is rotating at. Which now, how is it useful in something like the drones? So when you have a drone and when it is rotating like this, your gyro sensor is able to measure how fast the drone is rotating along this axis, how fast the drone is rotating along this axis, and how far the drone is rotating along this axis, right? This helps the drone to detect that it is not in an equilibrium position, and then it is able to correct it. Let's say if the drone detects that it is moving like this without being instructed to do so, it can course correct and bring itself to the equilibrium, right? That is broadly how as mentioned in the deck, just check out the video of the truth about the toilet swirl, and that will work. Like, it's a very interesting video. Check out the full video here. What you also have, so this tells you a little bit more about the structure of the MEMS gyro sensor, uh, where you have a mass in the center and the inner frame, so that when it experiences the Coriolis force because of the rotation, that allows you to measure the rate of rotation of the drone and then correct itself accordingly. Third one is the magnetometer, and there's no prizes for guessing what it does. What the magnetometer does is it essentially finds out how you are oriented in this world or on this planet Earth. Um, what the magnetometer does is, so let's say this is the front of the drone. Let me put it this way. Let's say this is the front of the drone. The magnetometer always keeps an eye on which is the front side. So what is the angle between that front side and the magnetic north pole? What happens is when you have when the drone starts yawing without it being instructed by the controller, that angle, the magnetometer detects that there has been, let's assume that this is the head. Let me try to put it this way. Let's say this is magnetic north and this is, sorry, let's say this is magnetic north and this is where the drone's front is. So if the drone starts yawing without it being instructed to do so, you can see that the magnetometer can determine that the drone is doing so, and it will stabilize, it will send instructions to its motors to stabilize the drone and then fix it accordingly. Coming back to the earlier one, if you remember, there was one question we asked earlier in the last section and also at the beginning of today's session. Is man is a standing man or a woman? Is it a stable system or is it an unstable system? The answer to that question is the man is an unstable system, which means if the man is standing like this, right? Let me see if I can attempt to do that well. Do you see the pen? Right. Imagine this is a man. It's a very bad analogy, but imagine if this is a man, and if it's disturbed from its location, it goes ahead and falls down. But all of us are able to stand properly on the ground. Why is that the case? That is because we have a gyro sensor within us. If you check out, these two ears, there is a pathway that connects these two ears through the head. These pathways have something called as the inner ear fluid. So when you shake or when you start falling down, the inner ear fluid moves within each other, in that tube, in this direction, and it tells your body that, hey, you're falling in a certain direction, you're rotating in a certain direction, and it instructs very instinctively, it instructs your body to go ahead and correct yourself, maybe put a leg out, or maybe put your hand out somewhere and try to keep yourself stable. This is another example of how you stabilize an unstable system. Right. So again, coming back to the magnetometer, what it does is it works like the compass, and it works on something called as the Hall effect or the magnetoresistive effect. All right, the final one in this is the barometer. Again, if we were all together in a class, I would ask you guys, what do you think we would possibly use it for? But why don't I give an answer anyway? The barometer is something that you use for measuring the air pressure, yes. But if you I assume at least a few of you had a chance to go to some high altitude places like the Ladakh, I don't know, other places in the Himalayas. You might have felt a little clogging of your ears or maybe a headache or something. That is because the air pressure in those areas is extremely low. What happens is as you keep going up, the air pressure keeps going down. So if you can measure the air pressure well, you can take a fair estimate of what height you are at. That is exactly what the barometer does. Now, in case of a human body, if we climb up a couple of stairs, we can barely make out the difference between the air pressure because we are not that sensitive. We can only feel that difference in pressure only if we climb a really high height like like Ladakh or higher than that. In case of a barometer, it is extremely sensitive. So even if you move the drone by a few centimeters, the barometer is going to sense the difference in the air pressure. And that's how it's going to know what height it is at. And if the drone realizes that it has gone up or down without the remote control instructing you to do so, then it's going to correct itself and come back to its original position. If it went down, the controller board will instruct it to come back up. If it goes up, the instructor board will ask it to come back down. The controller board will instruct it to come back down. Where does this whole thing come from? Um, if you have checked out the formula for pressure, pressure is equal to H rho g, that is height into density of the liquid, which in the of the fluid, which in this case is the air, and into g, which is the acceleration by gravity. So the pressure is directly related to the height of which at which the system is. So these are broadly some of the important sensors that you would want in your drone if you want to fly it stably, right? Some of the other sensors that you can integrate into your drone are, something like the laser sensor. What the laser sensor can do is it can shoot a ray of light onto another object and have it reflect back to the sensor, which helps it to determine what is the distance between the two. There always again the light detection and ranging, which is again the LiDAR, helps with similar data. There's radio detection and ranging, which again uses radio waves, sonar pulse distance ranging, which is ultrasonic, which again uses sound waves to find that distance. Right. If you reach out into the industry, let's say once you start working, you enter the industry, or you're a drone service for a provider or a drone manufacturer, you will be using something like LiDAR a lot, where you'll have the drone that will be flown over large areas of land with a LiDAR sensor. What it will be able to do is it will be able to clearly tell you what is the topography of the land. Do you have buildings in between, or do you have mountains in between? Do you have hutments in between? And it will be able to tell you extremely precisely with a 3D model of that object, of that entire terrain that you flew it over, right? And that is something that is very useful for the industry as we are looking at it today. Distance sensors that we have, those are used in those are using tracking objects. So for example, let's say you are looking at multiple drones which are flying together. The laser sensor can actually detect whether you're going to crash onto a wall or onto another object, and then avoid that from happening. Something like a GPS also helps you find out your location on the earth and then work accordingly. Um, what you have, or what we have also seen, are thermal sensors, especially thermal cameras, IR sensors. These are extremely useful when you are looking at an application like the firefighting drone. What we have seen these days significantly, so this is used both in firefighting as well as fighting terrorists. You're looking at drones that can fly into different areas. These will be able to take up the heat signatures of the object that they see in front of you. So for example, um, let's say you have a man who's wearing a coat and standing there, and you have a mannequin that's also wearing a coat. Both of them are facing the other direction. When you see the coat that has the mannequin on it, you will see through, let's say with a regular RGB camera, your photo camera, you may not be able to distinguish, but with the RGB camera, the man is radiating a unique heat signature that helps you to understand that, hey, this is a person here. Maybe he is not, like this is a human being, or this is a living being. Or maybe you see, let's say, like a wall from where you might be seeing some smoke, or there you are inside a room that is full of smoke. You're not able to locate where the fire is exactly, but a thermal camera will help you understand, hey, the fire is in this direction, we need to go there and extinguish it. Or maybe this is a dark room, but when I flew in a drone and I can see that there is a man sitting there, he's probably a terrorist and I need to take care of it. So ideas like these can be implemented when you have a thermal drone. Like this is you're seeing this as an image taken from a drone with a thermal camera in case of a boat that was stuck late at night, and you're talking on the middle of the sea where you have no lights whatsoever around. In such a situation, you can have a thermal camera that can detect something like this and help you out. Chemical sensors. In fact, if you check out our YouTube channel, you will see that we have had one student like one of you who used the drone to sense gas leakages which was on the drone. A simple idea being, I don't know if you guys are familiar that a few years ago in Mumbai, there is a dumping ground that caught fire. It caught fire because there was a lot of methane gas generation there. And so what this guy came up, the idea that this guy came up with was, why can't we have a gas sensor attached on top of a drone? So you can fly the drone in that entire area, whichever area has the methane gas, it will flag it off and help us kind of let it go into the air, instead of catching fire. So broadly speaking, coming back, there are multiple sensors that we work with. Some of these sensors are used to stabilize the drone, give it clearer commands on how to work. In fact, GPS receiver is also a sensor that tells you where you are and holds your position. So sensors like the GPS sensor, the altitude sensor, the gyro sensor, accelerometer, and I don't know if I missed out on any. So these are sensors like these are important for you to give stability to your drone. And then there are other sensors that are used to detect other ideas on top of it. So yeah, what you will require is the selection of sensors that you will do will depend on what application you are looking to build on top of the drone. It will entirely depend on that. That's broadly it. And why don't I open up for some questions from the audience?
Hello, Apurva sir. It was a very interesting session, and we have a lot of interesting sessions from the audience today. The first question is by Amartya. He says, I have read the ATL drone book. In the book, they say that we need 4 sensors: gyroscope, accelerometer, magnetometer, and barometer. But
Correct.
if we are going to control the drone, then we will not require any sensors. Could you please answer his query?
Okay, so if you go to let's say the toy market and buy these really low cost drones, it's right. What you say is true that we will not, these drones will have only one sensor, which is the gyro sensor. Now, the truth is also that without a sensor, you cannot have a multi-rotor drone that will fly. It will just flip and fall down, right? Because you're not going to control individual motors, you cannot have a drone that will fly with absolutely zero sensors. So you will at least require one sensor, which is the gyro sensor, for flying the drone. However, flying a drone with just a gyro sensor is extremely difficult. It is difficult because number one, you don't get enough data for you to understand the position of the drone, be it the angle of the drone as well as angular velocity. You don't get clear data for you to adjust for it. So you're going to struggle very bad when you're flying the drone. So then you add the accelerometer. So then you are able to sort of stabilize the drone and not have it just flip around all the time. So you fly it and it kind of goes like this. Then what you'll observe is the drone will start yawing unnecessarily without you asking it to rotate, right? For that, for having the drone not do that, you will have to have the magnetometer, so it will hold it in one place. Finally, when you have these three sensors and you try to fly it with it, the drone will continue to go up and down, right? Because it doesn't know what height it is at and what height it has to maintain. So it will just continue to go up and down. So when you add the barometer, then you have sort of a solid a solid height that the drone can hold at. इसके बाद भी I will tell you, in spite of this, what the drone will do is it will continue to kind of hover around like this, because it doesn't know where on this horizontal plane you have the drone flying. To solve that problem, you can use some of the following options. You can attach a GPS receiver जो बताएगा कि आपकी location ये है, and whenever it moves away, it will ask the drone to come back to that location. Or you can use something called as an optic flow sensor, which whenever the drone moves, because it's looking downwards, it realizes that the drone has moved a little bit. Something similar to your mouse, like the laser mouse. So something like that can be, it is correct that you can use one sensor, which is a gyro sensor, to fly the drone. But for you to fly the drone with a little more stability, you require these four sensors.
Okay, I believe a lot of people have got a lot of clarity through your answer. Now we have another interesting question by Chinmay Joshi. He asks, does a magnetometer really contain a magnet or a compass?
It doesn't contain a magnet or a compass. In fact, I don't know. Do we have Prasanna Shevre online, or do we think he can answer this question better?
So magnetometer has something called as resistance, electrical term mein. So resistance is basically like something which can measure the resistance can be measured electronically, and what happens is a magnetometer, the resistance changes with the applied magnetic field. It does not have a magnet, it does not have a compass, it has a resistance which is sensitive to the change in Earth's magnetic field. That is how you are able to sense the magnetic field. So there are some resistances which change with temperature. There are some resistances which change with pressure. There are some resistances which change with magnetic field. So a magnetometer has that kind of a resistance.
Awesome. Thanks, Prasanna, for helping answer this. I couldn't have answered this question as well as you did. So thank you for helping us out with that.
Okay, so we have another interesting question by Rohan Dattar. He says, can we place a barometer on the top of the drone to sense air pressure and wind?
Yes, the simple answer is yes. You absolutely can. So you can definitely use it to measure the air pressure of the air around. But if you're looking to measure the wind speed, I'm not sure if that is the ideal sensor for you to do that. You might want to use others. You will face a few challenges because let's say you have this drone, so you have the entire flow fields that are generated because of these propellers. Uh, when you have the wind going like this, let's say your drone is going like this, or it's just stable and the wind is moving. In such a scenario, will these four flow fields, will it affect what the sensor measures, the sensor that measures the wind speed? I'm not very sure. So that will determine entirely on the design of the drone and how you place the sensor.
I believe the next question will again be for Prasanna sir. Prasanna sir, are you around?
Yeah.
Okay. So it says, does a drone have a backup sensor if, for example, a accelerometer fails or stops working?
So some of the advanced drones, which are very expensive, they have backup sensors. So that's a very good question. So the more expensive the drone is, the more better the performance is. So some drones do have backup sensors. They have extra accelerometer, they have extra gyroscope, they have extra a lot of things so that you get reliable data all the time.
Interestingly, we have another question by Rohan Dattar. He says, does the gyro sensor show the number of axes on the drone? Like on AC, we can see the temperature.
Can you repeat the question once again?
Like on an AC, we can see the temperature. Do we get the rating data of the accelerometer on your controller? Is what he's trying to ask.
That's a very interesting question. So it depends on what controller you are using and what are you interfacing it with. For example, if you are looking at platforms like the Pluto drone or you're looking at APM, these have a separate software on your laptop which can give you the data of the sensor. So for example, in Cygnus or I believe even in Pluto blocks, you should be able to see, like you can just rotate your Pluto drone like this, and then at the same time you will be able to measure what is the gyro sensor measuring along each of the axes, along the x-axis, the y-axis, and the z-axis. So that is very possible. In fact, what it does is it helps us to really understand the concept of what the gyro sensor is measuring. In not just gyro sensor, even the accelerometer is measuring, or what the magnetometer is measuring. It is able to do all of that very clearly and helps you understand the concepts very well. So I love that question. It's a very well asked question. So kudos.
Okay. So I think this question is again for Prasanna sir. We have a lot of technical questions today on sensors. I think the students will really like the session. So the next session is the question is by Tuvya. He says, he or she, I don't know, is it possible for the drone to play music as it is going to do another task also? I believe his question is more on whether the drones are capable of doing multitasking with the sensors attached on them.
So typically what happens is that you can play music on the drone, and that is actually possible, but those systems are actually decoupled. So you have the drone which is doing all the sensor and stabilization and everything that happens on one microcontroller, and there's another controller on the drone itself, which is generally called as a companion computer, which takes care of other things like playing music, announcements, yeah, for image processing. So there are typically two such things which are happening. It happens parallelly.
Got it. Nice. Nice. Awesome.
I think we have tried and asked most of the questions related to sensors for today. All the other questions can be asked on our forum and we'll be able to answer over there. And yeah, I think, sir, you can take on from here.
Thank you, Shachi, for helping me out, and thanks all of you who've joined today. I got a chance to teach after a really long time, and it was a fun session. I was actually very impressed by the quality of the questions that came up today. For those who attend these sessions first time, we don't get questions like this. At least we haven't received till date. I'm very glad. I can see that you guys have really taken a deep dive interest into drones. I'm pretty sure you guys have also checked out the drone module. I was broadly very impressed with the kind of questions. It can be very easily seen because of the fact that I had to really bring on the experts into the answers, into answering your questions. I was very happy with the kind of questions that came in, and thank you for joining us today. I hope you had fun. I definitely did. And I hope to see all of you for our fourth session that is going to happen on the next Saturday. Until then, have fun, stay safe at home, stay healthy, and take care.
All of you, there's a small announcement. Today I will be floating a questionnaire, and everyone who answers the questionnaire, whether it is right or wrong, will be getting a drone simulator with which during the lockdown you can fly drones from your computers. So all of you, please make sure that you answer the questionnaire for today. Thank you. Bye-bye.